These Violent Delights, Chapter 31. Tyler Kai was the first to receive news of rumblings within the city. He prided himself on keeping an ear on the grapevine, face turned outward for whispers that flowed downwind for any burning source. Eyes pinned on those who needed them. Average civilians were fickle little creatures. They cannot be trusted to go about their lives sensibly. They needed overseeing, a gentle, kind hand to prod them around and move the strings that held their fates, as necessity dictated. Else the strings became entangled, and people choked to death on their own bumbling foolishness. Mr. Kai. The news came from a messenger named Andong, whom Tyler had taken especially under his wing, trained with the express directive of coming to him first, before anybody else. It's really bad. Tyler straightened up at his desk, setting down his calligraphy pen. What happened? A strike in the factory of Nanshi, Andong said, breathless. He had run in, barely avoiding a collision with the door jamb in his hurry. Casualties. There are casualties this time. Casualties? Tyler echoed, his whole brow furrowing. They are merely workers making up a fuss. How did they manage casualties? Did the madness strike at the same time? No, it's the communists, came the harried reply. They were people from the workers' union planted inside the factory, instructing the workers and smuggling in weapons. The foreman is dead. Found a meat cleaver to his head. Tyler frowned deeply. He cast his memory back on the rallies in the streets, to the political parties that the Scarlet Gang had been trying to keep under control. Perhaps they had aligned themselves wrongly with the nationalists. Perhaps it was the communists they should have been watching more closely. With what did they take issue? Tyler sneered. How dare they revolt against those who give them safety? They do not view it as much, Andong replied. The workers who are not dying from the madness are dying from starvation. They're lining up en masse for that stupid vaccine and instead blaming this blasted Larkspur for overcharging. They worship him for the safety of his magical vials and blame the Scarlet Factories for not paying enough to let them have both vaccine and food. Tyler shook his head. He hissed. Ridiculous. Yet the communists are thriving in this climate. They were. They were taking full advantage of the chaos to turn the people of Shanghai against their rulers, to tear down the reign the gangsters had built. But it was not a big deal. The Scarlet Gang still held the crown. If they couldn't get the communists in line eventually, they would simply destroy them. It is not an isolated incident, Andong warned when Tyler remained silent. It may be an uprising. The communists are planning something today. The factories all through Nanshi are starting to mutter unhappily. There will be more murders before the day is done. Off with their heads and down with the rich. The workers were hungry enough that they would cut down the gangsters and use the sound of screaming to insulate the spaces between their ribs. Send warnings to our Scarlet affiliations, Tyler instructed. Immediately. The messenger nodded. He seemed to start back in the direction he came, but paused before he could move, stilling. There's another thing. More? Tyler said. He threw his hands behind his head, rocking back in his chair. I did not see it with my own eyes, but... Andong stepped further into the room, then lowered his head. Instinctively, his voice grew quiet, as if matters of death and revolution could be discussed at a normal speaking tone, but petty gossip required reverence. Kansun said he witnessed Miss Juliet in White Flower territory. He said he saw her... Andong trailed off. Spit it out, Tyler snapped. He saw her with Roma Montagov. Tyler lowered his hand slowly. Oh? It was a mere glimpse, Andong continued. But he thought it was suspicious. He thought you would like to know. Indeed, I do like to know. Tyler stood. Thank you, Andong. If you would excuse me now, I must find my dear cousin. Roma and Juliet had reached a particular sort of peace. It felt almost as if they were no longer enemies, and yet they were colder with each other than they had been before Mantua, far more stiff, more reserved. Juliet snuck a glance at Roma while they pushed their way through Cheng Huang Miao, eyeing the way his hands were curled, the way he kept his elbows close to his core. She hadn't realized that they had gotten comfortable around each other until they were uncomfortable again. I'm not remembering wrong, am I? she asked aloud, aching to break the tension. The Long Fa Tea House is what Archibald Welch said. Juliet paused to inspect the shops they were passing, and in those few seconds 3 shoppers rammed into her, one after the other. She wrinkled her nose, almost hissing out an exclamation before she stopped herself. Being invisible was better than being recognized, she supposed. It didn't mean she enjoyed it, even if blending in with the bustling crowd in her drab coat and drabber hairstyle was doing her a huge favor. "I cannot imagine why you would ask me for confirmation," Roma replied. "I was on the floor." "Nothing's wrong with scrubbing the floor once in a while. It shows your humility." Roma did not laugh. She hadn't expected him to. Silently, she gestured for them to proceed before the shoppers here could bowl them over and recognize their faces. "Come on, floor scrubber." Juliet set off, her pride purposeful. They passed the cream sellers and the puppet shows. They walked by the whole row of Xiaolangbo stores without once pausing to inhale the steam that smelled like delicious meats. They wound their way through the yelling performers that ducked beneath the archway leading into the central hustle and bustle of Shanghuang Miao, and here Roma stopped suddenly, squinting ahead. "Juliet," Roma said. "It's that one." She nodded, gesturing for them to hurry that way. The Long Fa Tea House sat near the pools to the left of the zigzag Zhuangku Bridge, a 5-floor construction and an extravagant roof carved of its gold-lined edges. The building had probably been standing since China was first ruled by emperors in the Forbidden City. Roma and Juliet stepped through the open doors of the tea house, lifting their feet over the raised section framing the doorway. They paused. "Up?" Roma asked, peering around the ground level, empty save for one stool tucked in the corner. "Top floor," Juliet reminded. They climbed the stairs. Floor after floor, they passed customers and servers, activity spilling over the edges as orders were shouted and bills were thrown forward. But then Juliet stomped her way up to the last staircase, arriving at the top floor with Roma close on her heels. They found only one wooden door blocking them from anything on the other side. "Is this it?" "It must be," Roma replied. Hesitantly, he reached out with the back of his hand and knocked. "Come in." A British accent now. Low, rumbly, like they had a bit of a cold or a nasal infection. Roma and Juliet exchanged a glance. Roma shrugged and mouthed, "May as well." Juliet cracked open the door. Her brow immediately furrowed when what she had found. A tiny space, no more than 10 paces across. At the center of a room a desk was laid out, though half of it was covered by an enormous white curtain that stretched to the ceiling. By the light filtering through the window, Juliet could make out a silhouette behind the curtain, his feet placed upon his desk and his arms tucked behind his head. "Welcome to my office, Miss Kai and Mr. Montagov," the Larkspur said. He spoke like he had gravel lodged in his throat. Juliet wondered if it was his true voice or if it was feigned. And if it was feigned, why? "I can't say I was expecting you, and I usually take meetings by appointment only, but come in, come in." Juliet slowly strode toward the desk. On closer examination, as she peered at the wall behind the Larkspur, she realized that it was not a wall. It was merely a temporary divider. This room was as large as all the floors below. Behind the divider, the rest was merely the lab Archibald Welch had mentioned. "The Larkspur thinks he's being so sneaky," Juliet thought, eyeing the line where the divider met the ceiling. "He should learn to do a better paint job." "Come, sit," the Larkspur bellowed. Through the curtains, the outline of his arm showed him gesturing at the seats before him. However, his arm's silhouette would split the moment it came close to the curtain. Juliet narrowed her eyes. She searched for a second source of refracted light behind the curtain that would create such an effect, and found her answer upon the wall, where a mirror half faced the ceiling instead of the onlooker. It offered the illusion of decoration, but still what took was a glance up to where the mirror pointed, and the discovery of another mirror to reveal the truth. They couldn't see the Larkspur, but he could certainly see them. "We won't take much of your time," Roma assured. He sat down first. Juliet followed his lead, though she only perched on the edge of her seat, ready for a quick getaway. "It's about your vaccine," Juliet said tightly. She did not have time to play around. How are you making it? The Larkspur chuckled. Miss Kai, you realize how detrimental it is of my business if I tell you. It would be like asking me to give you up your client lists. Juliet slammed her hand on his desk. This is about people's lives. Is it? The Larkspur shot back. What are you going to do with the formula of my vaccine? Make a preventative cure? I'm trying to run a business based on demand, not a research facility. Roma grabbed Juliet's elbow. He was telling her to ease back, not to upset the Larkspur before they had gotten what they came for. But his touch startled her, and when she jumped in shock, her already fraught nerves rose from tense to claustrophobic. What is your business with Zangutai? Roma asked. Surely you must have heard the rumors about his role as the maker of the madness. You must realize how suspicious it is that you seem to be the healer. The Larkspur only laughed. Please, Roma said through clenched teeth. We're not accusing you of anything. We are merely putting together names, finding a way to fix this mess. You've made it so far for your little investigation, and you still can't put it together? Juliet was seconds away from lunging over the curtain and beating the Larkspur until his cryptic answers had some damn clarity. What do you mean? What do you think, Miss Kai? Juliet shot out from her chair so quickly that the chair flew back and turned over. All right, that's it. She reached over and in one quick, deft movement tore at the curtain, her strength ripping the fabric from the rings and held them into the ceiling. The Larkspur leapt up, but Juliet didn't catch a face. She couldn't. He was wearing a mask. One of those cheap Chinese opera masks that every vendor in the open market sold to curious children, decorated with wide bulging eyes and red and white swirls to emphasize the nose and the mouth. It hid every part of his features. But Juliet was quite sure that the Larkspur was looking rather pleased with himself right now. He was also pointing a gun at her. You were not the first person to do that, Miss Kai, the Larkspur said, almost sympathetically. And I killed the last one who tried. Juliet's weapons were tucked away inside her dress. By the time she reached for it, she could have given the Larkspur plentiful time to shoot. Still, she put on her vibrato. Who do you think can shoot faster? Juliet sneered. I think by the time you reach for your pistol, there will already be a hole in your head. Juliet looked over at Roma. His jaw was gritted so hard that she feared he would have cracks in his molars. It is merely one question, Roma said quietly. He asked again. What is your business with Zangutai? The Larkspur considered them. He cocked his head and made a noise that gestured with his free hand, meaning for Roma and Juliet to come nearer. They did not move. Instead, the Larkspur sidled closer to the table and leaned in, as if he was to release a great big secret. You wish to know my business with Zangutai? He whispered gutturally. Zangutai is turning himself into a monster. I am making the vaccine using information he is giving me. Why? Juliet demanded as they hurried down the stairs. Why would he tell us this? Why would Zangutai give him the formula to a vaccine? The world was moving too fast. Juliet's pulse was thudding at breakneck speed. Her breath was coming too rapidly even when they matched the ground level and stopped to find their bearings, stopped to gather their thoughts, realized they now had every puzzle piece they needed to stop the damn madness tearing Shanghai apart. Didn't they? It doesn't make any sense, Juliet spat. He must know we aim to kill the monster. He must know that we will hunt Zangutai down with this knowledge. Why would he give this up? Without the monster, there is no madness. With no madness, he goes out of business. I don't know, Juliet, Roma replied. I can't think of any viable answer, but down with the gangsters. The shout drew Roma's attention and Juliet's horror immediately, startling the two badly enough that they grabbed each other. It had come from the GQ bridge, with a raving old man who kept yelling until a Scarlet nearby threatened to beat him up. The sight, however, was not met with indifference, as per usual. Instead, at the instruction of the rough-talking Scarlet, the civilians started to mutter among themselves, throwing rumors and speculations to the wind. Juliet caught snippets of whispers, of striking workers and factory revolts. She dropped Roma's hand quickly, taking a step away. Roma did not move. "Why would he say such a thing?" Juliet muttered, her eyes still on the scene. Why did that old man feel emboldened enough to wish death on the gangsters? "If the reports I read this morning were any indication, it's trouble from the communists," Roma replied. "Armed strikes in Nancy." "Nancy?" Juliet echoed, knowing the area was familiar for a particular reason. "That's," Roma nodded, "where Elisa is, stuck in a hospital right by the factories." He finished. "We may be running out of time. The workers will storm the building should an uprising occur." If the workers rebelled from their tasks, instructed to cause chaos, they would seek to harm every gangster, every capitalist, every high-ranking foreman and factory worker on site, child or not, conscious or not, including little Elisa Montagava. "We kill him," Juliet decided. "Today. Kill the monster, stop the madness, wake Elisa and save her from the chaos building up around her." "He will still be in his office," Roma said. "How do we want to do this?" Juliet checked her pocket watch. She bit her lip, thinking hard. There was no time for her to consult her parents. She doubted they would approve anyway. They would want to think things through, draw up plans. She could not ask for official Scarlet backup. She would do this by her own terms. "Gather your closest reinforcements, your weapons. We meet by the Labor Daily offices in an hour's time." Roma nodded. His gaze searched her face, sweeping from her forehead to her eyes to her mouth, as if he was waiting for her to say something else. When she did not, puzzled over what he was waiting for, Roma did not explain himself. He merely nodded again and said, "See you soon." Tyler pulled back from where he had been lurking, pressing up against the exterior wall of the Long Fa tea house. He moved himself out of view just enough to avoid being spotted by Roma Montagov, who hurried into the crowds of Cheng Huo Miao and disappeared. Taking one last drag of his cigarette, Tyler pinched the lit end and stubbed it out, then dropped it to the ground, uncaring of the new burns in his fingers. Tyler had seen them. He could not hear their conversation, but he had seen them, working together, reaching out for each other. "Ta ma de, Juliet," he muttered. "Traitor."